everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. I'm Stephen Cabral, board-certified naturopathic doctor, and welcome back to our Total Wellness Tuesday show, where this week's topic is nail diagnosis. So this was actually by popular request or listener request that I just got this past weekend on the Cabral House Call. So as these house call questions are coming in, I always keep this little pad of paper on my desk. And I've spoken about this before, and it's funny because a lot of people that I work with, my private practice, they'll see me taking little notes because I'm always in the back of my mind. I'm like, oh, this would be a great topic for the podcast. And so one thing someone came in with was essentially a nail diagnosis-based question. And I just thought to myself, wow, there's so few people right now who know that by looking at your nails, by looking at your eyes, by looking at your face, and by looking at your tongue, you can get a real big window into what's going on inside the body, because the skin, the nails, the tongue, the hair, all of those things are manifestations of an inward-based health or disease. And so, and when I say disease, I mean dis-ease of the body, some type of imbalance. So what I want to do today is just really share with you things that I've learned from traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, and they say the same exact thing. That's why, when you look at different forms of medicine, and everyone's saying the same thing, and they're in different parts of the world, but yet still saying the same thing, and it's lasted for almost 10,000 years, there's probably something to this, right? And even conventional medicine, because I attend functional medicine-based conferences where 90% of the attendees and speakers are conventional medicine doctors, even those doctors agree that the nails can tell you something about the internal health. But they're looking more towards things like I'm about to explain, the very first one called clubbing. So without further ado, let's get right into the show. And what I want you to do is take a look at your nails. And basically, as we're going through this, I want you to assess, how do your nails look? Are they nice and smooth? Do they grow fast? Are they brittle and not brittle? Do they have ridges on them? Do they have any white spots on them? Can you see the little half moons, meaning the white part of the bottom of the nail? Or is your entire nail pink? Or is your entire nail white? Or is your entire nail bright red? So I want you to really assess the quality of your nails. It will tell you a lot about the internal systems and internal workings, which I'm going to explain right now. Then you'll also be an expert, and you'll be able to nail diagnose all of your friends, all of your family members, and all of your, children's, nephews, nieces, all of that. So this is going to be a fun show. Keep in mind, everything you find is correctable, so we will correct this. The only thing just also keep in mind is that your nails are a little slow to change. So let's say you've adopted a healthy lifestyle. You started doing, your detox. You started doing your daily all-in-one shake, all those great things, your smoothie. It's going to take some time. The nails take at least 6 months to grow all the way out. So it's just going to take some time. Some people might be able to grow them out a little faster if they have really fast-growing nails, but still, we're only growing these nails by a couple millimeters per month. So that's how you have to look at it. So again, all of this can be fixed, but I want to talk about it right now. So the first one I'm going to talk about is clubbing. Clubbing is basically when you look at the nail, it kind of pops up in a half circle. So meaning it almost looks like a cup, like the end of your finger starts to get swollen. So if you look at your fingers in general, the whole nail and the last part of that digit on the finger is swollen. And what that means is that the body is toxic. There can be real lymphatic-based issues. There can even be cancer-based growth because of this thing called hypoxia, meaning there's really poor oxygen exchange. There's really low oxygen in the body. And that's why you'll see this in a lot of people who have smoked for a while or they have heart disease. They'll see these clubbed fingers, and the end of that finger just starts to get thick or overgrown or a little fatter or a little thicker than the rest of the finger. That's really important to look for, okay? A lot of times there can be a discoloration of the nail itself, maybe too red or all white. We'll talk about what that means in just a moment. All right, the next one is that the nail itself, so the nail itself is just very, very thin, very, very thin, but also really short, meaning like all the way down, no white to the top of it at all. When I see this in my practice, I can tell that the person bites their nails. I can see that the cuticles sometimes are pulled away and that the whole white top to the nail has been removed by biting or excessively cutting it down very, very low. This is a dead giveaway in my practice 9 out of 10 times. We'll never say it's 100%, but 9 out of 10 times for anxiety. People's go-to is biting their nails a lot of the time when they get anxious. It becomes an anxious-based habit, and it is not good. Why? Many reasons. It's not good for the nail itself, but it's also not good that you are biting the nail, which has all sorts of bacteria and pathogens under it that we collect as we go through the day. Not good for your health, whether it's your oral health or your internal health. Can't recommend not doing that, okay? So number 10 is going to be a nail that looks almost like you got a little black splinter under it, all right? So when you get a little splinter under the nail, at least that's what it looks like, but it just pops up in the middle of the nail so you know that it's not a splinter. This can be some type of cardiovascular-based inflammation or a little bit of leaking of the epithelial tissue itself. So this is something that's important to look at. This is one of those things you would go to like a PCP and you would have your annual blood work done. You would look at homocysteine, you would look at your cardiovascular, you would look at your CRP, you would have your lungs and heart listened to. You would want to make sure that all of those things are intact so that you don't get those, as I said, little black specks under the nail, okay? Which looks like a splinter. So a yellowing of the nail means that there is sometimes some type of edema or swelling of the nail itself. It can actually mean there's some type of jaundice or liver-based issue. So these are all things that I'm pulling from, again, Chinese medicine, from our traditional naturopathy charts that we go by, as well as Ayurvedic medicine. Naturopathic medicine is always what I'm referring to more than just the typical, meaning like digestive issues, those types of things, is trying to give you some real insight into that as well. So that's whenever we see yellow in naturopathy, old school naturopathy, traditional naturopathy, and even in conventional medicine, whenever we see yellowing of the skin, yellowing of the eyes, yellowing of the nails, we're looking at a liver-based issue, and that's what we have to look at for those nails as well. But it can also be just swelling or some type of edema as well. Okay, so big part as well. When we see the nail start to kind of become half white, half pink, this becomes an issue. This becomes an issue for more or a deeper liver-based issue, meaning cirrhosis of the liver, some type of almost like toxins get into the blood and they're looking for an outlet. Now, we know that, like that's why we do hair tissue mineral analysis-based exams. We know they're trying to push through the skin. There could be acne-based issues. And we're looking at the nails. If the nails look really unhealthy, like they're just changing color, we have to go to the liver. What's going on? Is the liver not able to detoxify? Is there alcoholism? Is there too many medications that are poisoning the liver and the kidneys? Really important to look at that as well. Okay, next one is one of the ones that I see the most common in my practice, and this might be what you're dealing with as well. These little ridges on your nails, they're almost invisible, but when you run your finger over them, you can feel the vertical ridges, which means they run from the flesh all the way up through the top of the nail. So bottom of the nail to the top of the nail. These are called vertical ridges. There's a little difference with horizontal ridges that I want to talk about in just one moment. So these vertical ridges have to do typically with digestive-based issues, leaky gut, malabsorption, and nutrient deficiencies. Now, in conventional medicine, they're starting to correlate this to rheumatoid arthritis, but it's not just rheumatoid arthritis, so I think it's funny that they believe in it, but now they're saying it means rheumatoid arthritis. But you have to understand, like I've talked about this, it's in my upcoming book, I've talked about it on the podcast, rheumatoid arthritis and all these other autoimmune issues, 90%, 100% we'll say, but at least 90% we know from actual pathological-based studies go back to the gut, which means there is leaky gut, there is intestinal permeability, there is this spilling of proteins that's turning on the immune system too high that's causing the rheumatoid arthritis. Well, if you look at the malabsorption, if you look at the leaky gut, of course, the vertical ridges go along with the leaky gut, and the rheumatoid arthritis, again, is just one more symptom. So you might actually say rheumatoid arthritis is a symptom, just like ridges in the nails, of gut-based issues. And that's why, again, running an organic acid test, looking at those types of things are so very helpful. Okay, now what happens, though, when you get not just the invisible lines that run up the nails, but you actually get a dark line that runs from the bottom of the nail to the top of the nail. Now, if you've ever maybe met with me in my practice, or you've heard my story before, you know that I was diagnosed with Addison's disease after a couple years of suffering. They said, "Oh, why don't we run a cortisone stim test?" And they ran the test, and lo and behold, I wasn't producing any cortisol. So that was one more reason that they just let me suffer basically for years, being like, "Hey, you're not producing any cortisol. Well, there's something wrong with your adrenals." But they didn't believe in adrenal-based issues basically 20 years ago. So that was part of the issue. But I have a few dark lines that run from the bottom of my nail all the way to the top of my nail. Now, doctors, even myself, don't know if it's on one nail because when I used to teach sealing, around the same exact age, I dropped a centerboard on that nail, which could actually, so I want to give you multiple reasons, can actually damage the nail bed. And now the nail bed is growing in with these dark, dark lines. But also, it's a sign of Addison's disease. Now, how do we know that as well? Well, if we look at it, Addison's disease, another sign is dark patches that come about on the skin, like melasma, or around the elbow, or where I got it, which is the top of my hip bones got darkened. Not super dark, but they have dark. You can tell it's a different color dark there. And that was one of the dead giveaways as well. Like, I had a good PCP, but they were good in conventional medicine. And they're like, oh, wow, you have these dark patches all on your hips. Why don't we check for Addison's? And I had all the other symptoms, of course. Just took about 3 years to get there. So there is one more reason for these dark lines as well. And another is actually a melanoma. So we have to be careful that there's not some type of skin cancer that's causing these dark lines as well. Especially the dark mark is actually on the flesh, and then it grows up the nail. That's a really big sign that a potential melanoma. Go see your dermatologist or your PCP for that one right away if you have that. Okay, now what about the horizontal ridges? So these are almost like the deep ridges that run through the nail. Those deep ridges are more of a sign of like a psoriasis of the nail. Okay? It means more deeper digestive issues where it's actually like a wave in the nail. The nails get warped. And that is more of a sign of deeper digestive-based issues. All right. What about an all-white nail? I see this a lot in my practice where the nail is just basically white. It's very, very light in color. So this can mean a few things. It can actually mean that there's just very poor circulation. And that's why I see it a lot in my practice. Okay. So if you're in the sympathetic nervous system mode for most of your day, and if you think of the fingers as having very small capillaries near the fingertips, and everything in your body gets constricted a little bit, all your arteries, all your capillaries, everything's a little constricted, well, there's going to be less blood flow. And if there's less blood flow, your nails aren't going to be that nice pink color with that nice little white half moon at the bottom. They're going to be predominantly white. So if your nails are predominantly white, it could potentially lead to higher blood pressure, higher levels of stress, anxiety, but all fight or flight based constriction. And you want to take care of that. How can you test it? Well, you can run a hair tissue mineral analysis, or you can run an adrenal and hormone test, and that will tell you your levels of stress output. Okay, now what about instead of a white nail? Well, there's other reason. If your nail is really white, like it's just stark white. Now, there's a difference between having a very light colored nail that isn't pink, it's just kind of like a light pink or red, and it's just basically a white color, or a stark white nail. But now, if it's stark white, that can be more of an issue of what's called nephrotic syndrome, or an issue actually with the kidneys. And the kidneys aren't doing proper filtration of proteins. That's another one, just stark white, that your PCP should look at. Okay. What about really an all red nail, where your nail, there's no half moon at the bottom, there's not that little white half moon that a lot of people at least have on their thumbs, but you should actually have it on all 5 fingers on both hands. But the nail shouldn't be all red as well. Now, when it's all red, this is what happens when your red blood cell count or your hematocrit, which you can actually just run a very simple blood test for, starts to get too high. This is something to check out as well. So again, stark white nails or stark red nails, like really abnormal compared to most people, get that checked out by your PCP right away. Okay, a couple more. What about just like your nails are starting to break, they're starting to kind of fall apart? Okay, this could be a few reasons. This can definitely be low thyroid. So the nails, the hair, the skin, it gets a little more thin, a little more brittle. It could be vitamin deficiencies, but more often than vitamin is actually mineral deficiencies. Not enough of the calcium, the magnesium, all of those things that's needed. Not enough vitamin D, not enough of your vitamin K. So you might be vitamin and mineral deficient. You can run a hair tissue mineral analysis for this. You can run an organic acids test for this to assess digestion as well as vitamins on the organic acids test. And you can run the hair tissue mineral analysis for your mineral levels as well. Highly recommend that. I will link everything up today in the show notes. Simply go to stevencabral.com/634 for today's show. Okay, I'll put all the lab tests there, and I will put in as much information as I can get that we've talked about on today's show. So you'll want to look at that for that brittleness of the nails. Next, we want to move on to where we actually see parts of the nail missing, or it's almost pitted and just kind of falling apart. So anytime you have a nail that's truly, it looks like it's diseased almost, like the nail is just falling apart, it's barely there, it's pitted, there's marks in it, really good sign of yeast overgrowth, fungal overgrowth, or psoriasis, which in my opinion is all one and the same. if you're trying to get rid of psoriasis, if you're trying to get rid of eczema, if you're trying to get rid of this nails, if you're trying to get rid of this fungus, we're looking at a yeast overgrowth or bacterial overgrowth issue in the gut. You treat them both the same exact way. You can do an organic acids test. Again, we'll link that up by Great Plains. In that, of course, with every lab test, you get a review by me. So when you get your lab sent to your home, you do a simple test you can do right at home. You ship it in the lab. We pay for the shipping to the lab. And then I review your lab results, and then you get on a call with one of my health coaches for 30 minutes, and you actually go over your results, and you start to get better. That's the whole point. If you do it this month, in the month of October, you actually get upgraded to a 60-minute lab consult when you do 2 labs or more. So that's kind of nice as well. We're just trying to teach. Like, that's the whole point, is trying to get more of that education out there to people. So nails is one of those things that we have to look at. So very, very important. So the last part, I'll finish up with this. You might see other things that are very common as well. Again, I just mentioned like little pieces of the nail missing, or looks like almost like it's peeling away of the nail. Or you've got these real deep, what's called invasions, or like crinkling of the nail itself. That, again, you want to look at yeast overgrowth, fungal-based overgrowth. You can treat it topically, which I've spoken about before on the Cabral concept on our house calls before. I've talked about using a little tea tree oil or a little bit of grapefruit seed extract oil. Those are just a couple of things that you can use in your nail to treat the fungus right at the nail level. But you'll also want to use it internally, meaning like not the tea tree oil and the grapefruit seed extract oil, but you'll actually want to do the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol or run the organic acids test first. That's going to help to get rid of the internal. Remember, it's internal expressing itself externally. Yes, you can get it externally, but so much more rare if there's not already a pre-existing internal-based issue, which is why in naturopathic medicine, we believe that it is the terrain that matters, meaning that your internal terrain, your internal soil, if it is strong, healthy things will grow and it will kill all of the things that shouldn't be there. But if the soil is not strong, if you do not have the vitamins and minerals and neurotransmitters and amino acids and everything else your body needs, if you don't have all of those things, you cannot fight off all of the pathogens that try to invade our body. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at any of these things. If you haven't listened to my tongue diagnosis episode, we are going to link that up in today's show notes. So just go to stephencabral.com/634. And what we're going to do is we're going to put that link in there for our tongue diagnosis episode. And then in the future, I'm going to do a facial diagnosis where you're going to not only be able to look at your tongue, your nails, but then you're going to look at your face and you're going to see, what do those red marks mean? What do those brown marks mean? What do the circles under the eyes mean? What do the sunken temples mean? What's the acne on the forehead mean? How's it different than acne on the chin? What about acne on the cheeks? What about as what we call the crow's, the crow's, is that what they call crow's feet, I believe, or those lines? What do all those different things mean? What about the little line on your earlobe? What does that mean? So I'll explain what all of those things mean on a future episode. So continue to stay tuned. And again, if this show was helpful, please do feel free to share it with anyone else you believe it could help. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning into another Cabral Concept. This show wouldn't be possible without you listening and sharing its message with those you care for in the world. And as a thank you and my way of trying to help you take your health to the next level, I've listened to our community feedback and I've created functional medicine lab testing bundle packages. This allows you to save over $100, $200 or more per lab testing package. And this month, you'll be getting automatically upgraded from a 30-minute health coaching call to a 60-minute call. Keep in mind that with every lab you run, I personally review your results and I make recommendations for you. And then one of my amazing health coaches will be taking you through your new plan step by step. I hope that this new addition to our online practice will allow you to look deeper into the underlying root causes holding you back from achieving your wellness, weight loss, or anti-aging goals. To take advantage of this money-saving offer and upgraded coaching call this month, simply go to stephencabral.com/store. You click on the wellness, weight loss, or anti-aging links. You can then choose the lab package that best suits your specific needs. Choose from hormone, thyroid, adrenal, gut-based, parasite, anti-aging, you name it, it's there. We're trying to help you get to your goals the fastest and safest way possible. My team and I sincerely look forward to helping you soon.